Transformers 1, the 2024 animated film that flew completely under the radar for a lot of people, and honestly, I totally get it. It's Transformers. Transformers! A brand that, despite its popularity, historically has had a pretty shaky output in the film department. I myself had some pretty low expectations for the movie going into it. Is it good, Editor B? Great! Oh. The live-action Michael Bay Transformers movies weren't exactly a great first impression, and the advertising for this movie was also just not terribly great, and I'm just not a fan of the explosive-driven Michael Bay-verse movies anyway. I think Bumblebee was really the only standout movie that I would call solidly good. That said, Transformers 1 is a different animal entirely. This entirely animated prequel is set in a completely different timeline from that of the Michael Bay movies, and that already is a brilliant sign. It adapts pre-existing Transformers lore from the TV shows, games, and toy line to the big screen, taking a massive departure from the human-centric world of the live-action Transformers movies to instead focus on the nitty-gritty of the titular bots themselves. But did Hasbro truly stick the landing? As far as box office performances go, no, this movie really underperformed. And it makes sense. Transformers 1 had an uphill battle to get people into theaters at all. And yet, this film certainly has its fans. So let's rewatch and find out if Transformers 1 is truly an amazing gem and an evolution for the franchise, or just another bland blockbuster like all the rest. We begin with tense music playing as we shift through the logos of the studios involved. Of course, we have the Paramount logo and then, hey, the Hasbro logo. I recognize some of those silhouettes, can't wait for a whole film cinematic universe based by it. Then the movie begins with Great War era bombers flying over the top of a human city and oh, hold on a second, we're still in the opening credits. Whew. This is just the logo for New Republic Pictures. And while this is probably not an intentional misdirect, it does kind of feel like the first of many of the movie's subversions. Or it's a recession indicator, take your pick. Anyway, a few more logos play and the music pulls us into the film's true introduction. We're greeted with a shot of an upside-down city, with slick, colourful, metallic buildings spiraling down from the ceiling and, well, what do you know, coming up from the ground too. Kind of a stalactites and stalagmites approach to city construction. Though don't ask me which is which, those days are decades behind me. This first establishing shot wordlessly places the film's primary setting of Iacon City underground, since a good half of these buildings clearly aren't hitting the ground, and are instead clinging to the ceiling. We are not 10 seconds in, and the movie's use of show-don't-tell world building is already impressing me. Plus, because it's animation, you can design a world like that. This ain't the real world anymore. As the camera sweeps onto the side of one specific hanging building, we zoom in on a small red and blue bot. As he climbs up the very angular side of this building, he makes his way over to a tube and gets in. I'm actually really curious, where is he climbing from? Since the building is clearly suspended, it's not like he could have just climbed down from the cave surface. And he's clearly moving up the side of it too, right? Surely he should be going down, if anything. Either way, the shot does a really good job of making it clear that this robot is not intended to be here. He makes his way into the building and drops down between some security lasers, giving us a clear look at his face. The red and blue bot is indeed our protagonist, Orion Pax, played by Chris Hemsworth. And I'll be honest, his face looks a little jarring, uncanny. There's a smoothness of movement to this mechanical face that is initially just very off-putting to me. I get why a lot of Transformers are drawn into the original cartoon with just a faceplate instead of a mouth. There's just something strange about a metal mouth moving the way it does here. The nuances that would make subtle facial animation like this is great on another film, it just feels odd here. But hey, it's something you get used to pretty quickly.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Orion stumbles across the security system, searching through shelves, taking out random cartridges and bringing them over to some sort of cartridge player hologram table. That sounds about right to me. He inserts a cartridge, it starts glitching out and making a considerable amount of noise, which seems to activate smaller security robots. Orion quickly shifts out the cartridge, knowing he's now in somewhat of a time crunch, and as a different cartridge plays, we get some exposition.
Our gracious and powerful creator.
As it turns out, the planet this film is set on, Cybertron, was created from the body of a giant robot god, Primus, who transformed himself into this world, sacrificing himself to protect the universe. From his core, the first Transformers known as Primes were born. This is some Xenoblade type stuff, and I am so here for it. I love these big, crazy world-building backstories. I like lore, is basically what I'm saying.
Primus birthed the first Transformers.
Also, can I just say, though I'm usually not a big fan of exposition dumps at the start of a movie, I think narration like this is the best possible way to get some of the harder to communicate world building out of the way. I'd absolutely rather have this over a movie like Pixar's Cars, where there are just too many questions about world building that go unanswered, for example. Here, right off the bat, we know the original Transformers came from the core of the planet, and we also know a bit of their theology. You know, it's neat stuff.
Since them, Primus created an entity.
And we also get to have this stuff immediately grounded in the universe too. The genius of this narration is not just that it's useful to us, it's a real part of the world too. Orion sought this out, and he's listening and reacting. As it goes on to talk about the Matrix of Leadership, an artifact of great power created by Primus, he gets excited since it seems he's getting closer to hearing about whatever he's looking for. This Matrix was given to the Primes. With the Matrix in their possession, the Primes were able to maintain the flow of an energy source called Energon, which sustained life across the planet.
Energon flowed in abundance.
But eventually the Matrix is lost and energy no longer flows through the planet. As Orion finishes watching the hologram, he's caught by security robots.
Halt, criminal. Prepare to be detained.
And he's not just found out by the small Metroid Dread-looking security robots on the platform. Rushing in are two sentient robots, much larger and better geared than Orion. As he then goes on to try and talk his way out of it as they corner him, but they know him. He's been here before.
That defective mining bot.
Orion Pax.
Who cares?
This interaction between Orion and these other much bigger bots are used to explain one of the core tenets of the world of Cybertron 2, the social hierarchy. Transformers 1's Cybertron is centered around a caste system. The bigger, stronger robots are known as the titular Transformers, since they have a transformation cog in their chest that allows them to change into an alternative vehicle mode, and also to turn back into a robot. Living beneath them are the cogless caste of Energon miners. These miner robots are unable to transform, and as such live roughly as second-class citizens. And Orion Pax is one of these miners. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of these jokes, aren't there? So Orion is cornered and given the power scaling system completely outclassed. Though he's cogless and can't transform, he tries anyway, in the exact kind of self-aware way you would hope a modern quirky adaptation would be. You could argue it's awfully Marvel, I'd rather say it's very Lord and Miller. Either way, we love this stuff. I love this stuff. Being a parody of yourself for comedic effect, subverting the tropes you're known for? Brilliant. Comedy. Honestly, this might be one of the strongest jokes in the whole movie. Wish it wasn't in the trailer. Well, strongest intentional joke, that is. And so Orion dashes through the facility and we see these larger bots change into jet forms. Orion jumps out of a window, and in a scene that feels straight out of a Star Wars prequel, he uses a small security bot that he stole to hold himself in the air while all sorts of vehicles fly through the cityscape around him. I assume the majority of these flyers are presumably Transformers themselves, right? I like particularly when he leaps onto this passing train, the passengers just mutter to themselves, Orion. This guy just seems to be a known deviant.
Orion.
This entire action sequence is designed to show you how outclassed Orion is as a mining bot, and it is just so well executed. Not only is the action here well directed and clear to follow, but it also feels just kind of comical too. I want to keep watching just to see if there's some other clever little trick they pull with the score and the blocking and the direction, because it all just has great synergy together. A total change of pace from the Michael Bay Transformers, where you can't tell what the hell's going on in an action scene. Those are just big CGI slop slugfests. They don't even compare.
Hey, fellas.
As tired and cornered Orion tries to talk his way out of conflict with the two Transformers who trailed him, they're run into from behind by another miner who slams a minecart into them.
That's where you're going. Did you say no cog?
This is D16, a shiny metallic mining bot played by Brian Tyree Henry, and he's Orion's best friend. He misdirects the two Transformers, leading them away from Orion, who he hides in his minecart as they get on board the train. You gotta like how, even though this is kind of an open secret, it was all part of the marketing, but I also just like that the protagonists aren't Optimus Prime and the other guy, Mr. Decepticon. Oh god, can you tell that I don't know the Transformers lore? I know him more as D16 and Orion Pax. The point still stands. It's kind of nice that they came in with different names so you can just completely break off the history of what you know of these characters for them to become the main characters as you know them. Spoilers, because Orion Pax is Optimus Prime. It's, I don't know, a really nice blending of the character developments within universe that works. I like it a lot is what I'm trying to say.
Sooner Energon flows again, the sooner we won't have to mine.
Of course, at the same time, with us knowing who they are to become and that they are going to have a lifelong rivalry, it also allows us to see more of the perspectives of both characters rather than just blatant good versus evil. With D16 having a different opinion, choosing more to rely on the Transformers on the surface looking for the missing Matrix, as opposed to Orion trying to find it himself.
We're miners. We mine, that's all.
Me when I was 14 years old playing Minecraft after school. I love this discussion though. Before they depart the train, Orion gives his buddy a shiny purple decal, a mint condition Megatronus Prime sticker. Hey, wait a second, I know that thing. That's the Decepticon symbol. I at least know that. Or at least it will be said logo.
First edition. What?
Orion fastens the decal to D16's shoulder and our miners arrive in the mines. They do yearn for them.
I yearned for the mines.
And we get some more awesome establishing shots. The trains coming down to the mines, all being harvested en masse and cogless miners flying behind their patrol leader using jetpacks. This patrol leader is Alita 1, played by Scarlett Johansson, and she makes it very clear that the mining bots of her crew, including Orion and D16, are beneath her, and that she is very close to a promotion.
Are you happy for me?
It's not too far off of the retirement cliche, but hey, we'll allow it. Makes sense in an analogy about classism. So Orion and D16 take to the mines, extracting ore with their team, but the mine is unstable and a blast of energy starts to bring down the tunnel.
Just grab your pack and go! Good idea. I didn't mean it!
Using his jetpack, Orion is able to lift the rock off of Jazz, but causes an explosion that makes the cave-in worse. I also love the way this tunnel cave-in is animated. It's so unnatural. Instead of rocks falling, it's almost like the shifting of the Transformers themselves as they change shape, and this is by design. Their planet Cybertron is Primus. These miners are essentially digging into a giant living transformer. It's a really neat detail that makes this world feel so unique, and an idea we'll see expanded later. Though everyone makes it out of the tunnel alive, it's the perfect inciting incident for Orion to get scolded for not following protocol, and Alita 1 gets fired.
They're not gonna fire you.
You're fired.
Yeah, this is very Lord and Miller, but I love that. So Alita is sent to waste management and Orion goes to confront the Transformer Taskmaster, Darkwing.
I may not have a cog, but my finger can transform.
Again, love this kind of parody of the trope of Transformers. This is solid comedy based off of a long-running IP. And I love the meme version that finishes the pose. Gosh, and even though D12 punches Orion for Darkwing to resolve the conflict,
Allow me.
he gets slugged anyway. Only for them to reinforce the social hierarchy of Cybertron later.
He had every right to hit me. I interfered.
Man, it's almost like they have a thing to say about the lower class in this society, huh? The conversation is interrupted by a live holographic transmission from Sentinel Prime, and I just have to say, he is the best part of the movie. This blue and gold trimmed leader of Iacon City cheers on the miners, announcing that he has returned with his fleet from the desolate, dangerous surface of the planet after another failed attempt to find the Matrix of Leadership. That said, in the meantime, he tells his people to take it easy.
Tomorrow there will be no work. Tomorrow is the Iacon 5000.
The Iacon 5000 is a race run across the city by Transformers, and of course, in true Trailblazer fashion, Orion hatches a plan. He indeed will run the Iacon 5000, despite being cogless bots. It's a pod racing side quest, but it has a point, as the goal is to beat just one Transformer, to go down in history as the mining bot who did the impossible.
We're mining bots who can't fly, we can't roll, we can't race.
And at said race, Sentinel Prime makes his grand entrance. As he gives a speech that further clarifies the state of Iacon.
It has been 50 cycles since the Quintessons attacked our home.
During this speech, he dedicates the race to the rest of the Primes who were also tragically lost in battle 50 years ago. A fun little Easter egg, the music that plays behind Sentinel Prime's speech is from other Transformers media, as this melody is taken from the score for the 3D animated TV show Transformers Prime, but is used here as a musical theme representing the Primes themselves. It's neat stuff. And as you can come to suspect, Orion Pax has rigged it so the two are going to be jump-started into the race.
Are those miners in the race?
Oh no.
Minors in the race?
The writers.
Minors in the race?
They have to know, right?
Minors in the race?
They must know. They have to, right? Ugh. Anyway, we get a shot of the scoreboard, and what do you know? Orion and D12 are simply listed as minors. How reductive.
This is insane!
But their mining bot peers recognize them and they flock to watch their performance. Orion and D are there for each other the entire time, with Orion catching D16's arm as he nearly falls over the edge. With no vehicle mode, they barely scrape through the race, using their ingenuity to keep up. And once again, it's a brilliant excuse for some action, directing, and choreography.
I don't believe it! The miners take down Darkwing!
Jeez, looks like we got a Minecraft YouTuber here. Though our underdogs nearly win the entire event, pushing each other through, they are taken out in the final moments of the race. D16 is taken out by debris, but Orion won't finish without him, in a move straight out of Pixar's Cars.
One miner is now carrying the other!
But of course, mere steps away from the finish line, they're slammed into and never finish.
Finishing the history of...
The perfect non-win, despite it clearly having some consequences anyway. But it also leads to a great conflict between said two characters.
And now they're gonna bust me down. I don't even know how many tiers.
But Orion, on the other hand, believes it was all worth it. They were liberated by the race, they proved that they were more than society tells them they are. To which their chat in the hospital is interrupted again by Sentinel Prime and his assistant, Arachnid.
Was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I loved it!
Sentinel informs them that they're not getting demoted, their crazy actions have inspired the miners to work harder. Halfway into the first shift after the race, the mining crew working has already reached 150% quota.
You inspired them to work harder.
Sentinel then leaves, and as he's on the way out, he tells D and Orion that he has a treat for them, telling them that they will be escorted to his personal service facilities. And can I just say, I love the way that Sentinel and Arachnid back out of the facility after this conversation. Like,
Until next time, legends.
Sentinel's design just feels so shiny and big compared to this facility, so it makes his movements out of here pretty awkward and funny. He's clearly too big for this place and he had to just squat to get in there. It's great visual storytelling. And then just as soon as happiness can wash over the two, they're found by Darkwing.
Miners!
And despite Sentinel's praise, he is very irritated by these two and their antics and throws them down into a secluded work area 50 stories underground.
You two dolts aren't going to see anyone!
Hate that guy.
Our miners are lost and alone here, other than a bot that immediately approaches them. This is B127.
You're others. You're not me.
B, played by Keegan-Michael Key, is this film's comic relief character, and possibly one of the biggest sabotages of this movie, not for how he actually turned out, but in the marketing. This movie underperformed, and a lot of it comes down to the first impression it gave, where this Bumblebee guy very much overstayed his welcome. And though it doesn't reflect that strongly in the actual movie, the trailers certainly made him look like just the worst classic, overbearing and annoying character.
Yes!
He is meant to be that trope, but it's not as bad. And he just lives down here. Of course, not all of his jokes are exactly zingers. Like he's been working on a name.
Badassatron, actually pronounced
Badassatron.
Though I wonder what it'll eventually settle on. Anyway, after looking at all of his junk imaginary friends,
EP508, AA-tron, Steve.
he accidentally beheads one, and inside his severed metallic head, Orion finds a map to the last known location of the Primes. This is honestly the biggest plot contrivance in the movie, and I'm not really a fan of this choice.
One of the primes?
I guess it makes sense that this map would be discarded down here, for reasons we will get to later, but it does feel way too convenient that our heroes came across it, especially immediately.
This is where we could find the matrix of leadership.
And so the three climb up 50 sub-levels to the surface-bound waste disposal trains and sneak aboard. To which they're confronted by Alita 1, it all comes full circle, who, if you can recall, was also shifted over from mining duty to waste disposal by Darkwing. Man, Darkwing just loves throwing miners in the trash. He's accidentally the reason everyone joins up, huh? Once again though, we get a brilliant action sequence as Alita fights the three adventurous robots on the train, trying to escape and report them for breaching protocol. Not to mention, you see more of the world building and mechanics that are just brilliant as the train makes its way up through the city, placing the tracks in front of it as it moves. But before they know it, the four bots are all on the surface. So remember the transforming caves from before? while Cybertron's surface takes it to a whole new level, with mountains made from the body of Primus rising and falling. The sun has a kind of vaporwave sort of aesthetic too, and the lighting here is pretty incredible. It's a really unique way to make this alien planet stick out and feel like it's, well, a transformer. And as they walk alone, cut off from their society, B-127 yaps.
You can call me B, or
Bassatron.
Stop trying to make
Bassatron.
happen.
While Orion and D16 chat about how good of a decision it was for them to go together here.
So glad I'm out here with you. This was a great idea.
It's a genuinely touching moment. The relationship between these two bots is absolutely where this movie is the strongest and is the real core of the movie.
D. We're really doing this.
Eventually though, the group has to take cover as a massive alien ship flies overhead.
What is that?
The ship belongs to the Quintessons, the enemy of the Transformers that wiped out the Primes 50 cycles ago, leading to another great set piece of them scanning for life forms, destroying everything in its path, as the gang are able to narrowly escape undetected, only for them to arrive at their destination, where they find the final resting place of the Primes, their bodies scattered on the ground.
The Primes.
As they walk through the Prime gravesite, D16 comes face to face with the body of his idol, Megatronus Prime. His face matching that on the decal that D16 wears proudly on his body, as Orion finds Zeta Prime, the previous owner of the Matrix of Leadership, though the artifact is missing.
The Matrix. It's gone.
Until they eventually find their way to one of the Primes who still lives, though he is powered down, an elder bot named Alpha Trion. And as they awaken him, at this very moment, everything changes. He's confused, battered, and injured. He turns to the fallen Primes and comforts them, and then he takes note of the 4 adventurous bots who made it here. More specifically, he takes note of their missing cogs, asking what happened to them.
We're cogless miners.
Miners. Why?
Even just the very concept of bots as miners is a completely alien one to try on, as energon should be flowing. But even worse, the name Sentinel Prime causes Alpha Trion to become enraged.
Sentinel is no Prime.
Alphatron then shows the 4 cogless bots the truth with their own eyes, using a cool flashback spell of some sort made from fallen sand. Not sure how this works, but the effect is really neat.
Their elimination could end the war.
We flash back to the war against the Quintessons. Sentinel was, at the time, just an aide to the Primes. He claimed to intercept a message about a secret gathering of Quintesson commanders, and the Primes agreed to meet Sentinel for the intel in the very cave where they now stand. But instead of finding the intel they sought, they were led into an ambush where they were massacred. As it turns out, so the sands show, Sentinel, their idol, was cutting down the Primes whom he portrayed alongside the Quintessons. And when he tried to claim the Matrix as his own from the chest of a fallen Prime, it disappears. The Matrix can only be claimed by one chosen by Primus, and Sentinel was most certainly not deemed worthy. And thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you're interested in more amazing movies. Admittedly, these videos underperform a little bit, but I'm gonna push through and make these kind of videos anyway. So now let's get back to the second half of The Amazing Transformers 1. And to top it all off, to solidify it with their eyes, they even then see Sentinel arrive and kneel before his new alien master, where they deliver the toxic waste that has been shipped outwards on the trains to the Quintessons.
Our energon.
This waste was never really waste at all, but energon. All of the toil of the miners was to serve the Quintessons and to serve Sentinel's ambition. It never was in service of the good of the people, and this storytelling rocks. This entire betrayal sequence is so well done because it reframes everything about the society we have been shown thus far. The caste system isn't natural, it's engineered to maintain Sentinel's power and to feed the Quintessons. The map which led our heroes here was discarded to cover up the truth, sent to be incinerated, and Sentinel, of course, could never find the Matrix. That was all a cover-up for his trips to the surface.
I swear I will get you the rest.
So with the whole worldview completely shaken, we have the by-the-books D16 especially taking it hard.
Every single day of my life has been a lie.
He takes his anger out on Orion, shouting at him about how they should have stayed on protocol. He's grappling with his entire worldview being shattered, and then D16 snaps.
Don't you want to stop him? No, I want to kill him!
Immediately as well, writing an inciting incident that leads to two different paths on the two protagonists. And to a sense, you can understand both of their perspectives, but they are different perspectives, leading them now closer to the people they are going to be, rather than meeting more in the middle. And it's only exacerbated further as Alpha Trion reveals that no son or daughter of Cybertron is born without a cog. And worse, that Sentinel removed their cogs before they came online.
We were born with transformation cogs.
This story is honestly getting incredibly dark. Like, sure, they're robots, I get that. But honestly, this film has done such a great job humanizing and personifying these characters as if they were flesh and blood. And all of that work pays off here, making this specific action feel like a particularly egregious atrocity. By removing the cogs, Sentinel created the minor class artificially, binding his brethren into slavery.
He took them from us.
This movie is all sorts analogous, whilst in this case also the slavery is quite literal. But you know, it's a big story on classism. Not quite what you could tell from Knife Hands!
I have knife hands!
You know what I mean?
I see their strength in you.
Alpha Trion then remarks about the spark of these four cogless bots, gifting them the powerful cogs of the primes themselves. They grow bigger, stronger, and more complete, and they truly become what they were always meant to be. Transformers! Having an origin story to even becoming the people they're established as, but done in such a cool, literal, physically changing way is just, immaculately satisfying for someone who's not even a fan of the Transformers as a whole. But of course it doesn't last long, as Sentinel and his men arrive too. But it does give us a chance to see this cool Rat Beast alternate mode that Alpha Trion transforms into. It's really cool.
Not too old for you.
And then what's great is then more subversive explorations on the tropes of Transformers as the heroes attempt to transform as they flee, awkwardly making their way down the mountain as they learn how to use their new body parts.
It's working!
Like, I love this. Maybe I just like parody, but I feel like it works really, really well. Another one of the highlights is just Bumblebee tattling down with his arms still out instead of wheels.
Wheels! I need wheels!
It's great. I feel like maybe this action sequence can be a little bit too hectic and weirdly paced, but it's a minor gripe, and I think it's the only action scene that might sort of lean that way. And as our heroes finally figure out how to transform, Orion, B, and Alita each turn into passive vehicle modes, whilst D16, on the other hand, turns into a tank and blasts one of the Sentinel soldiers away. He cackles with a deranged laughter. He feels empowered, only for Orion to push back against this newfound bravado, planting more early seeds that there is tension between the two friends.
I got it.
And as the main two clash over what to do next, whether revealing the whole truth or uprising against the current leader since they are clearly untrustworthy, they too are then ambushed by unknown Transformers. These are the Cybertronian High Guard, formerly the elite of the military, now just a fractured warrior society on Cybertron's surface, living under the rule of their strongest, a Transformer named Starscream.
Spies or incompetent lackeys.
He's played by Steve Buscemi, who honestly does a great job here. Starscream, of course, another classic Transformers character. I know that. And as they attempt to negotiate, the High Guard is apathetic, until D16 proves his strength in single combat against Starscream. With his newfound power, D16 easily pummels the leader of the High Guard with a massive cannon growing on his arm in anger, declaring that this is the last time he shows mercy and rallying the High Guard to march on Iacon City to take down Sentinel once and for all. Very much taking the abrasive route rather than the merciful, noble route.
Follow me as we march on Iacon once and for all!
Against Sentinel, not Starscream. We need him to make future movies and merch. If only. As our heroes, freed from their bonds, stare down D16, it's a pretty dark moment. We've already done a good bit about classicism and the way this society is structured, But this is about violence and anger as D's power grows. But then, of course, the camp is attacked by Sentinel's men, giving us another chance to showcase more of our heroes' new powers as they fight the Iacon military alongside the Cybertronian High Guard. And it doesn't end so well, as most are taken captive and Alpha Trion's proof was destroyed, shattered by a rock in the fighting. But it does open up for more bonding to be done with all the other characters, as Alita gives Orion a pep talk in the aftermath, telling him that his instincts tell him to break protocol for a reason, and that his blind optimism allows him to be bold and courageous. Alita and Orion then recruit some of the Cybertronian High Guard.
She punched me in my eye!
Because yeah, I guess that is how you recruit someone who values the strength of one bot over another.
We will follow you!
Orion gives a rallying, noble speech, and then the makeshift army goes to hijack a train and take it back to Iacon City.
Look at this rowdy bunch.
Meanwhile, the rest of the High Guard are bound in Sentinel's throne room. And while I really enjoyed the movie up to this point, I think this film hits its true peak from this scene onwards. Sentinel gloats at first about capturing the High Guard and their leader, and then about capturing D16.
D16, secretly a traitor.
You're the traitor.
Nuh-uh.
Wow, he really just nut-earned him. Sentinel then goes on to pin all of his failings on D16. He claims that he's been working with the Quintessons to sabotage his expeditions, and that he's the reason that Sentinel and his men haven't found the Matrix yet. It's a flimsy lie, since clearly everyone knows him as only a miner, so like, what, is he taking his cog in and out of himself? But Sentinel doesn't really care.
The truth is what I make it.
No matter how you try to spin it, this is politics done in a kids movie, and it's done immaculately. Sentinel declares that they are all to be executed publicly in front of Iacon, but D16 stands confidently in defiance, telling Sentinel that he has nothing left to lose.
You took it all.
I sure did.
Man, the writers and animators do such a good job making Sentinel truly hateable. He's such a well-written, love-to-hate villain. What makes his great writing even crazier is that he's a twist villain as well. But he's a good one. He makes a lot of sense. In fact, in re-watching this film, it really is clear that the writers never really were worried about pulling the wool over your eyes about him. The society that he leads is clearly messed up, and he is clearly on a power trip from the very first time we lay eyes on him. This is how you do an animated twist villain. And in an act of pure villainy, he knocks down the defenseless D16. He then notices D's Megatronus decal, a symbol of the bot's trust in the Primes and his friendship with Orion, and takes it. And then he tells D16 that,
I took his cog for myself.
ugh, this Mark. I love every scene he's in. Placing the decal back on D16's body, he brands the bot with the face of Megatronus. I'm not sure where the blowtorch he used to brand D16 comes from, but I don't even care. This act is pure evil, and it's a powerful moment too. Everyone watches as he burns this mark into D16's chest. Then we cut back to Orion, who soars down into the city, now flying and transforming into his new vehicle mode, as we cut to Darkwing abusing the miners.
So get back in the mines before I make you get back in.
I'm in danger!
And Orion slugs him.
Oh, miners!
Ah, comeuppance. Orion now towers over the miners he used to serve beside, miners who were told he had died from his racing injuries. He shows everyone his cog. Gotta make sure I pronounce that one right.
Nice cock.
Tells him that he was never the most focused miner, because of course he does, and explains the truth about Sentinel, the miners, and their cogs.
What defines a transformer is not the cog in its chest.
He offers the miners a choice. They can mine themselves to death or fight back, repeating the wisdom of Alpha Trion. Orion is growing into his newfound role as a wise leader, his arc an equal and opposite to D16's. And also, setting off a rebellion from the lower class up to the higher. This is A Bug's Life 30 years later. It's not bionic, it's mechanic this time. We next see D16 on the floor after being branded, and even still, he rises in defiance of Sentinel. In his own way, having his own indomitable spirit, but in the wrong direction.
You really were a great miner.
Also, word of advice, don't watch this movie as a drinking game where you drink every time they say minor. Bad move. Just thought I'd send that out there. As Sentinel goes to execute D-16, Alita's forces arrive, then the battle for Iacon begins. The High Guard deploy from the train and battle against Sentinel's military. And this entire battle sequence is sweeping and stunning. Truly, cinema. And as Alita's forces start to get enveloped, the miners with their jetpacks and mining tools also arrive to fight, led by Orion Pax.
Let's break some protocol.
And here, we accidentally have the greatest joke in this movie. This joke is so funny that I'm not even sure it was intended to be the joke. But just look at this. Do you remember? Orion is pushed against the moving train by Arachnid, who attacks him with her many spidery limbs. She opens up her many eyes and, well...
I see everything.
Except the tower we're about to crash into.
Oh, this in cinemas broke my brain, especially as the train then slammed into Sentinel's tower. It felt sort of like a minor joke being mixed in with, honestly, a 9/11 joke. And I can't even begin to explain how funny this was. I'll be honest, it was so off-color and unexpected, and it's truly the culmination of all of the minor comments throughout the movie. This is my favorite part of the whole thing, and I guess, like, logically, yeah, 9/11 hasn't happened on Cybertron yet, so I guess she couldn't see that coming. This movie really did run with the, it's been at least 20 years so we're allowed to joke about it now, or at least animate it. I'm sure it's a mistake, but like, come on, we all saw it, right? I'm not the only one who saw this joke for what it was. The characters themselves have no reason to assume that what they're saying isn't serious. This might honestly be what makes it one of the most subtle but hilarious jokes in the whole film. Or I'm just painfully millennial. Anyway, the train hits the tower and smacks into Sentinel, to which Orion immediately rushes over to D-16, noticing how he's been branded.
What has he done to you?
This is nothing compared to what I'm gonna do to Sentinel.
And I think that's a really important point to put in there to showcase the status of their relationship right now. He still cares in that moment. God, these action scenes here in Iacon are just all so good. Iacon City in general is just an amazing setting. And also the bit with B getting knife hands and just going wild is admittedly really, really fun.
Knife hands? Knife hands! Knife hands!
Even if it could be horribly misconstrued in marketing form.
Knife hands!
As B, Alita, and Orion take over the communication center, they use Arachnid's memory, captured from her vision, to display Sentinel's earlier admission of his crimes for the whole city to see.
After I killed him, I took his cog for myself.
Sentinel sees as well in a real Waternoose moment where he knows he's been seen for the criminal he is. He's been defeated, his public trust is gone, and of course, him kneeling before the Quintessons has been exposed. I'm filming this at the end of July when politically, that's quite an overlap. I don't know where things will be by the month of September, but, well... The city is thrown into revolution, and while Sentinel is stunned by his empire overturning, D-16 charges him and they fight in the air. Intense music plays as the battle keeps going because the truth of the matter is that discrediting Sentinel is not the end of the true conflict of this movie. D stands above a frightened, defanged, and injured Sentinel who begs to be spared. But Orion, who watched their battle, leaps in to stop D-16's blast from killing their former leader.
You cannot begin with an execution.
You need to move out of my way.
The tension in their friendship and variations in their beliefs have pulled to a breaking point. Orion still wanting to take the noble path of not being like Sentinel, and D-16 simply pushing it to the side, until we get to the culmination of that. So many times you've seen movies where there is this diverging pathways that then leads to the badder guy actually coming to the good side and choosing not to be like the villain that they want to kill the whole time. Or so many times you've seen the big bad actually get shot instead and the disappointment that follows. How often do you see it that the actual heroic protagonist is shot through the chest in a seemingly fatal manner? It is a surprise twist that makes this movie suddenly far more intriguing in the direction it takes, as much as you can predict it to a certain extent for certain characters to be established in the form they're going to be, but still brilliantly executed for what is otherwise a subversion of what the true ending is. And it only follows through further as the new dynamic of this friendship doubles down in this direction. Though D has a moment of contemplating everything they've been through, he eventually comes to the conclusion of,
I'm done saving you.
His eyes turn red and he rises, leaving his former friend to die. Orion Pax's lifeless body, drained of energy, falls deep into the planet's core. At the same time, D-16 fights off elite gold-plated loyalists of Sentinel before grabbing the cowering robot and he rips him in half? With his bare hands? God, this is brutal for a PG movie, robots or not. But this scene, again immaculate. The contrast between the two friends. They've been on opposing arcs this whole movie, always disagreeing but having each other's backs until this breaking point here.
No more false prophets!
And further than that, I love the next direction for this otherworldly world building we have.
Orion Pax.
As Orion Pax's body is centered into the core of the planet, communicating with the very spirit of Primus, being delivered the matrix of leadership through his approval, transforming and upgrading his body yet again, whilst D-16 has a similar upgrade of such scale, replacing his cog with Sentinel's, the very same cog as the warrior Prime Megatronus that he once idolized and is branded with, upgrading in the opposite direction as well. The two Transformers are given their new names.
I am Megatron! Rise! Optimus Prime.
I mean, in that regard, it was fairly obvious. This movie is a Transformers origin story after all. But this moment is just the best culmination for the actual turning point for these characters, even if we saw it coming. Megatron, completely consumed by his rage, orders his men to burn down all traces of the old regime. He shoots down statues of Sentinel with no heed for civilian casualties in the debris. As they fall, his old companions Elita 1 and B-127 go to stop him, but he no longer has any regard for them, or for anyone other than his own ambition. Everything changes as the newly born Optimus Prime flies out of the core. As he emerges with the Matrix, Energon begins to flow again in Iacon. Megatron looks up to his old friend who now stands tall above him, but all that remains in Megatron's heart is jealousy.
Primus gave you the Matrix.
The two former friends exchange words, and these words turn to blows, with Megatron charging Optimus. It's another brilliant action scene. The two fight with their new, impressive and iconic weaponry, though Optimus only narrowly takes away the victory, powered by the Matrix, slicing through Megatron's arm cannon with a glowing axe, easily staving off the High Guard members that charge him as well. Megatron, defeated, is banished by Optimus for betraying him and for betraying Iacon and its citizens.
It didn't have to end this way.
Prime.
Megatron spits at Optimus's new title as he and the High Guard leave, and Optimus realizes that his former friend has transformed into a violent warlord. And on that culmination of the origin point of their story, we see a flashback to when the two of them first met, a touching moment.
I'm D-16.
Orion Pax.
And some real anime-style chronology. It was their first time mining Energon, and it's a moment that serves as a promise between the two to look out for each other. A promise that we now know is broken. It's poetic stuff, really.
You watch my back, promise to watch yours.
Thanks.
As the High Guard leaves, Optimus takes his role as a new leader, and B-127, who will one day be known as Bumblebee and also get his tongue ripped out, goes to work for the government. This movie was already quite dark, but that fact kind of lingers in the background.
This is the greatest day of my life. I get to work for the government.
Elita 1 too, and we get this really awesome shot of the planet as Optimus narrates over the ending. Everyone gets their cogs returned to them, and we get an explanation for the name Autobots. As freedom and autonomy are the right of all sentient beings. Optimus declares that the Autobots will drive out the Quintessons if they should dare return to Cybertron, and then the credits roll. But the story isn't complete until the post-credits scene. Somewhere in exile, Megatron stands above the High Guard in a dark land with stony fields littered with purple energy. This is probably Dark Energon, if existing Transformers lore is anything to go off of, apparently. Megatron declares his vow to fight his new personal enemy, Optimus Prime. He and his men brand themselves with the face of Megatronus Prime as their insignia, just like how Megatron himself was branded by Sentinel. Declaring that he and his followers will not be blinded by the deception of Optimus, he takes on the title Decepticons as a badge of honor.
Decepticons, rise up!
And so the planet has been restored and the regime has been toppled, but the cost was dire. Because at the core of this movie was the story of two friends. Two bots who always had each other's backs falling out. It, no pun intended, transforms the characters through their journeys, turning the by-the-books D-16 into a militant warlord and the adventurous Orion Pax into a noble and honest leader. And honestly, I loved it throughout. Sure, the movie isn't perfect and has a few jokes that don't land.
Badassatron.
Stop trying to make
Badassatron.
happen. It's not going to happen.
But what it does accomplish, especially during its incredible third act, is nothing short of amazing. The heart of the characters is really what sells this project, as does the crazy world building. And it's such a worthwhile watch a second time around too. There are tons of details about the inner workings of the society that just aren't as apparent on a first viewing without the context of Sentinel's betrayal. But once you have that context, they really create an interesting second or third viewing experience. And for long-time Transformers fans, there's a ton of Easter eggs too. Legacy characters, series catchphrases, and the like. That said, it also works just as well for new fans like me who don't necessarily pick up on any of these things. I mean, it was my first major exposure to the brand and all, and I genuinely loved it throughout. It does a really great job of taking on the very notably political themes for a kids movie, whilst also it didn't raise alarm bells with certain crowds of people, which means it must have really slipped that in there well. All in all, this had a massive quota of things to handle, and it masterfully adapted all of it. The only mistakes they really made was in the marketing, and that then led to the execs making sure this franchise will never continue further. This movie absolutely deserves a sequel and an expansion, but unfortunately, as is the way these things typically go, it is probably likely dead in the water. And though this film wasn't the box office smash it perhaps should have been, it leaves behind a lineage and gets the cult following it deserves as a truly great animated film. And that was the amazing Transformers 1. But for now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell me your thoughts on Transformers 1, or give us suggestions for future amazing movies together, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio! And everything changes as the newly born Optimus Prime? Everything changes as the newly born Optimus Prime flaws. Everything changes
When the Fire Nation attacked.